And welcome to Newsmax Now. I'm your host, Miranda. As always, thanks for joining us. We have a lot to get to, so let's bring in our political panel. Joining me on the national anchor desk, I'm pleased to have with us Larry Klayman. He is the founder of Freedom Watch. He's also a former federal prosecutor. And joining us from Newsmax DC, we have our own Jack Berkman. He's a conservative strategist and the host of Behind the Curtain, which you can catch right here on Newsmax TV on Saturday mornings. And joining us via Skype, we have Cabot Phillips. He is the media director at the Leadership Institute. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. All right, so let's talk about what our agenda is for today. We're going to continue the discussion on the Russia collusion probe. It may end someday, Larry, but I don't know when exactly. We're going to talk about CNN's report. Now, according to the network, James Comey will publicly testify. President Trump asked him to end the Michael Flynn investigation. We're also going to talk about that Paris climate deal, why President Trump may be ready to back out, and how he could exit from that agreement. Plus, Kathy Griffin comes under fire for her severed head photo. We'll share some of the reaction to that image. And we'll talk about the uproar at Evergreen State College, why Washington state lawmakers are now trying to defund the public university. All right, let's get started. Let's talk about the latest with the Russian collusion probe. CNN and NBC now report that James Comey will publicly testify that President Trump asked him to end the FBI probe into alleged ties between the Kremlin and Trump's team. This is according to anonymous sources. I almost want to say this together. My producer and I were joking around. Maybe we should do the anonymous report, because we keep doing a lot of those stories lately. Today, the president insisted again that the investigation is a witch hunt. He wrote on Twitter earlier this morning, calling on Democrats, saying they don't want his former aide, Carter Page, to testify about Russia because he would blow away their case. This comes after Page wrote a second letter to the House Intelligence Committee asking to testify. Now, he wrote the letter after staff postponed his hearing that was supposed to happen next week. Page says he wants to expose the FISA warrants. The Washington Post reports last summer the FBI obtained one after convincing a judge that there was probable cause to believe Page was a Russian government agent. Now, Page denies the allegation and claims that the FISA warrants were illegally used to monitor his personal communications. Page joined Trump's campaign in March of last year as an unpaid advisor. All right, so that gets you all up to date. That's the background on that. Let's start with you, Jack. Do you think Comey will testify? And what do you think that we're actually likely to hear that we haven't heard already from the former FBI director?
Well, the answer is not much. Look, I've known James Comey 20 years. There's one thing he always does, and that's put himself in the spotlight. I remember 16 years ago, right at this time, he was stalking the Bush White House, trying to get himself appointed U.S. attorney in Manhattan. I mean, the guy's a megalomaniac. I mean, what you're going to see him do, of course he wants to testify. He probably is getting ready to sell a book. In his mind, he's going to become a kind of Oliver North and a superhero. You may see him run for president as a Democrat. Don't forget I said that. It might sound crazy now, but in 23 years, it might not be so crazy. That, believe me, he has that on his mind. Well, he's going to perjure himself. He said when he testified the first time that there was absolutely no interference from the administration. Now he wants to say the opposite. What's the intervening circumstance? The intervening circumstance, of course, is that Donald Trump fired him.
All right, so those are some pretty heavy predictions. He's going to write a book, and he's going to run for presidency. All right, let's talk about Carter Page, Larry. The president seems pretty convinced that his former aide's testimony will help his case. Do you agree with that?
Well, probably will. I mean, he was a bit player, Carter Page. And if he was doing his own private business over there, that's one thing. But there's been no showing that President Trump had anything to do with what he was doing. But there are people in and around the president, and through perhaps no fault of their own, they're going to become, if they're not already, the targets of this independent counsel or special counsel investigation. And General Mike Flynn, I also believe that he didn't do anything wrong. And there are others around him like Roger Stone and, of course, Manafort. And what happens in these special counsel investigations, they spend so much money. They're going to spend tens of millions of dollars that the independent counsels have to justify the money. And they usually burn the people at the middle level, much like happened with Dick Cheney over the Valerie Plame special counsel years ago. They wound up indicting his aide, his chief of staff, Scooter Libby. So these people are at real risk. And it's a serious matter. And Comey, I think Jack's absolutely right. Comey wants to
What about the presidency or the book or no?
Well, just the fact that the guy is vindictive and wants to extract revenge for having been fired.
But do you think?
On the money, Miranda. Larry, as usual, is right on the money. Let me tell you, I'll put it differently. The special counsel needs scalps to justify his existence, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Go in and hit the middle management types. Larry is right on the button. You know, I'll tell you something else. One of the reasons Carter Page is so important is because he's powerful evidence that Donald Trump was telling the truth when he said that Obama spied on him. And now you see these FISA warrants. If you'll notice, the establishment media doesn't want to talk about these FISA warrants. They don't want any mention of this, but I think Carter Page should bring them back.
All right, we're also coming out today. The Wall Street Journal reports that the House investigation is ramping up. According to the Journal, the House Intel Committee submitted 7 subpoenas today. 4 are reportedly related to the Russia investigation, and 3 are related to questions about unmasking. Now, the subpoenas aim to uncover how and why names of Trump's associates were unredacted and distributed in classified reports by Obama administration officials. The committee subpoenaed the NSA, the FBI, and the CIA for information about the unmasking. Committee members want more information as to why former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, former CIA Director John Brennan, and former United Nations Ambassador Samantha Power asked for names to be unmasked and classified material. Cabot, what's your reaction to this latest development today?
I think it's important that we remember, let's wait before all the facts come out before we begin jumping to conclusions, especially on an issue so important like this. I hope that Jack is right and then we do get a book from Comey, because then we might actually start to get some answers there, because it seems like all we've had so far is people. Or at least Comey's version of the answers. It seems like all we have so far, all of these anonymous sources coming out, giving answers. We don't have anything on the record to go on. And it's watching the mainstream media. It's very difficult for the average American to discern what is a big deal and what's not a big deal, because we all know they're out to get President Trump in many ways. And so they blow everything out of proportion, whether it's a big deal or not. And if the president did tell Comey to stop this investigation to Flynn, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. But it's tough for Americans to know what is and isn't when everything, it's almost like a boy who cried wolf situation from the media. So I think before we jump to conclusions one way or the other, let's wait for the facts to come out. But I certainly would hope that we get some actual intel and actual factual information to go on, because all these anonymous sources are not helping anyone. It's just all he said, she said, and no one's really getting to the bottom of what's happening.
Yeah, you don't like the idea of a news segment, anonymous report? Go ahead, Jack.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Miranda. Carter is so right. I would just say, even during Watergate, the Post and the Times maintained at least the veneer of objectivity. They at least pretended they were newspapers investigating their subject, Richard Nixon. Now these entities are out of the closet. All of the establishment media is out of the closet. They are very overtly telling the world they want to resist. They want to make it impossible for President Trump to govern. They want to be an obstacle in his path. They're overtly telling us that. You see all of this nonsense reporting. The Post is quoting the Times is quoting the Post quotes the Times, and somebody told the Times that they read this and that, and then it's quoted. I've never seen journalism at a low point like this.
No.
Well, and there's an important story here that we're missing here, not us, but I have a client named Dennis Montgomery. He was an NSA contractor, a CIA contractor, left with 47 hard drives, 600 million pages of information. I brought him forward to the FBI 2.5 years ago. I got him immunity because he left with classified information. And he has information that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, 156 other judges, other justices, President Trump, his family, yours truly, anybody who is anybody, was surveilled by these intelligence agencies under James Clapper and John Brennan and others.
So you're confirming what Carter Page has been saying.
Right, but I was up on Capitol Hill for almost 2 months, going door to door, literally like I was a young lawyer, talking to people on the staff saying, bring in Montgomery because he has a broader story to tell here. Judiciary committees of both chambers of Congress, intel committees. They don't want to hear from him. They want to keep this limited just to the leaks. And why do the intelligence committees, why are they laying off of Montgomery? He's the key witness. And Comey obstructed the investigation because Montgomery came forward with this information. The FBI has it. He gave testimony for 3 hours in video. The reason is, I believe, these intelligence agencies and these committees, they're worried about the intelligence agencies themselves, that they have dirt on them. And if they push too hard to get the bigger story about this mass unconstitutional surveillance, that their political and personal lives could be ruined.
So you think that's why Carter Page hasn't testified yet? You think that's deliberate, the reason they postponed his hearing?
Possibly because he was victimized by that. But there's a bigger story here, and I believe Comey has obstructed justice by suppressing this investigation of Montgomery. I had two FBI agents, Walter Giardina and William Barnett, sit down with him for 3 hours under oath, videoed. This has been in the FBI files for 2.5 years, Miranda. And the story is that if anybody should be subject to a grand jury here and possibly indicted, it's James Comey.
Anybody else want to weigh on that?
I would just say it's part and parcel of a broader theme. Larry's right on the money. I wish we could hear more from Dennis Montgomery. I know there's safety and security concerns with all of that. But I mean, it's part and parcel of a broader theme. Obama and NSA spying on hundreds of people, if not thousands of people. And when Donald Trump says he was spied on, his conversations were listened to, I think he's right on the money. More evidence for that is Obama, as soon as he left office, he and his pal Ben Rhodes set up a bunker over there in Kalorama where they encourage people to leak. They literally are throwing monkey wrenches into the U.S. government, trying to slow down the wheels of government. No former president has ever acted in such a low way. No Republican, no Democrat, no one.
Cabot, you want to weigh in on this? We have about 45 seconds left. Do you think there needs to be more done in this when it comes to these alleged FISA warrants?
Well, I think definitely the more information that comes out, the more it's almost confirming what many people know to be true. And that's that for so long, these government agencies have just been used as nothing more than wings of the Democrat Party. And they've been used for the interests, not of the American people, but for the interests of Democrat officials. And I think that's something that needs to come to a stop or come to an end. And hopefully that's coming to an end under the Trump administration. But I think we're just uncovering just how much clout the Obama administration had over these government agencies and just how much work they were doing for President Obama. I think we're going to hear a lot more about this, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I have a feeling you were right about that. Larry Klayman, Cabot Phillips, Jack Berkman, please stick around. We still have a lot more to get to. It was 2 years ago, saying that she had blood coming out of her eyes, ears, wherever. Yeah. All right, so President Trump slammed the picture on Twitter. He wrote, Kathy Griffin should be ashamed of herself. My children, especially my 11-year-old son, Barron, are just having a hard time with this sick. The post reportedly was enough to even grab the attention of the Secret Service. The U.S. Secret Service tweeted this. On it, Secret Service has a robust protective intelligence division that monitors open source reporting and social media to evaluate the threats. Not surprisingly, several Republicans, including former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, slammed the image, but several Democrats also expressed outrage, and that includes Chelsea Clinton. She condemned the photo. She tweeted, this is vile and wrong, and it is never funny to joke about killing a president. All right, so in the hours since then, CNN has now fired Kathy Griffin. She was one of the hosts of the network's annual New Year's Eve broadcast. It goes on every year. Griffin's co-host for the special, anchor Anderson Cooper, also slammed the photo online. He tweeted, for the record, I am appalled by the photo shoot Kathy Griffin took part in. It is clearly disgusting and completely inappropriate. All right, Cabot, let's start with you. I just want to get your immediate reaction when you saw this photo.
It's clear that the reaction that Kathy Griffin wanted from Americans was shock. And I think if Kathy Griffin really wanted to shock Americans, she would actually try telling a joke that makes people laugh, because that would be the biggest shock, that Kathy Griffin is being funny once again, because it's been so long. My first thought here is just how hypocritical this is. Of course, you would never see this of any other president. You shouldn't see it of anyone, really. But I think supporters of Donald Trump should, in a way, be pleased when they see this, because it just made Donald Trump that much closer to re-election in 2020. Every time someone in Hollywood or someone in the mainstream media does something ridiculous and outlandish like this, it's just increasing the chances that Donald Trump has re-election and decreasing the Democrats' chances in the midterms as well as in 2020.
Jack, do you... Hold on, before you go into, I want to ask you, though, just want to throw this out there, because Griffin has apologized. Do you think that apology was enough?
Oh, I think it's enough. It ends the issue. She got what she wanted. She's back in the news after a long absence.
She lost her job at CNN.
Well, that's a once a year gig. I'm sure she's happy to sacrifice it for the exposure she's got. She's pitching this to the Hollywood base. Remember, she's pitching this. She wants to get herself back on E. Our friend Kathy's fallen out of the news. She's fallen out of the entertainment world. She wants to get herself back in, and she knows that by attacking Trump, the Hollywood base will love her. It's not just morally wrong. There are legal problems with this. You can't talk about killing the president. Now, there's an issue as to whether she's serious about it or not. Obviously, she's not. Nonetheless, the Secret Service may have every right to question her. I'm glad we have my friend Larry here. Larry, you
are Miranda, just thinking we're on the same page, because I was just going to ask Larry that, but I'll go ahead and let you ask him.
Well, I was going to say, Larry, our good friend Larry, Freedom Watch broke some news in January with CNN doing this crazy report at the time of the inauguration. For some bizarre reason, CNN was speculating about what happened if the president, the vice president, the speaker, and all the cabinet members died. I mean, why is a cable news channel speculating about that? Larry correctly said, I think a crime had been committed. It's a shame we don't have real standards in this country.
Well, you're right, Jack. Thank you for that plug. But the other reality here is that we have other Hollywood entertainers, as you're talking about, on the left. Snoop Dogg, who did almost the same thing as Kathy Griffin. He had a little demonstration, a video, where he was suggesting the assassination of the president. You had Madonna say it early on. You had Charlie Sheen. You've had others out there, and I think this investigation should be broadened as to whether there's some kind of
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, though. Where's the line drawn, though, from freedom of speech to threatening the president?
This is the one area that there's not freedom of speech. You cannot threaten the president.
But is it phrasing? Is it an image? Because she said, I'm clearly not promoting an act of violence.
Well, even suggesting, look, our lead into this segment, we had somebody at Trump Hotel. It's kind of like telegraphing to that person, go out and kill the president. It's acceptable. If it's good enough for Hollywood, it's good enough for me. You know, Miranda, we talked about this. I spend time in LA. I've done some entertainment stuff. I wear American flag around even during the day. People look at me sometimes in Beverly Hills and they say, you must be a Trump supporter because I'm wearing an American flag. I mean, it's unbelievable out there.
Yeah.
And that's not right, is that we're all Americans. You know, our president, they never did this to Obama. People didn't openly threaten to kill him, and obviously people were upset about what he did. There's a line to be drawn, and this investigation should be broadened, and the Hollywood left should be more than ashamed of themselves. They should be held accountable.
All right, I want to talk
freedom of speech.
Go ahead, Jack.
Sorry. I was going to say, look, we all love freedom of speech. Larry, I, Cabot, we depend on the First Amendment. Lord knows they would have probably put us in jail long ago if it weren't for freedom of speech and the First Amendment. But there is a line, and I think she's way over the line, and I think a criminal charge might be in order in this case.
It won't happen, but it should be in order.